Every time I see someone pour bleach straight onto a yellowed plastic panel, I already know how the story ends. 6 months from now, that plastic is going to look worse than before they touched it. More brittle, more yellow, sometimes with a weird orange tint that won't go away no matter what they try. I've stripped down enough appliance housings and lawn furniture to tell you bleach doesn't fix yellowed plastic. It just speeds up the exact chemical reaction that caused the yellowing in the first place. There's a better way, and it's sitting in your laundry aisle for about $3 a box. The problem. Walk into any garage, basement, or old kitchen, and you'll find it. That off-white computer case from 2004, the window air conditioner unit that used to be pure white and now looks like it's been steeped in tea, old light switch plates, retro game consoles, patio furniture that spent a few summers outside, refrigerator door handles. All of it turning that same sickly yellow-brown color, even though nobody spilled anything on it, nobody touched it with dirty hands, and it sat mostly indoors out of direct sunlight. This is what gets people. They assume yellowing means dirt, so they scrub harder. They assume grease means hit it with degreaser. Neither one works because the yellowing isn't sitting on top of the plastic. It's happening inside the plastic, in the actual material itself. That's why a rag and some dish soap does nothing. You're cleaning the surface of a problem that lives underneath it. Most people don't notice it happening until it's already bad, and there's a reason for that. The color shift is slow. We're talking months, sometimes years, and your eyes adjust to gradual change the same way they adjust to a room getting dimmer as the sun sets. You don't clock it day to day. Then, one afternoon, you set a brand new white plastic item next to the old one, and the contrast smacks you in the face. That's usually the moment someone calls me, texts me a photo, or shows up in my comments asking what happened to their beige-turned-mustard patio chairs. I've worked on commercial properties with white plastic light fixture covers that hadn't been swapped in 15 years. And by the time facilities finally noticed, the yellowing had gone from slightly off-white to genuinely embarrassing. The tricky part is that once you notice it, people panic and reach for the strongest thing under the sink. That's exactly the wrong move. And I'll get into why in a second. Why it happens. The yellowing you're looking at is called oxidative degradation, but forget the textbook name. Here's what's actually going on. A lot of plastics, especially the white and light-colored ones made from ABS plastic, contain a flame retardant chemical baked right into the material during manufacturing. That chemical is great at stopping fires. It's terrible at handling long-term exposure to oxygen, UV light, and heat. Over time, that flame retardant compound breaks down and reacts with oxygen in the air. This reaction creates new molecular structures inside the plastic that happen to absorb light differently than the original material. And that shift in light absorption is what your eye reads as yellow. It's not stains, it's not dirt, it's a chemical change to the plastic itself, happening from the inside out. I've cut open yellowed plastic housings before to replace internal components, and you can see the color is uniform straight through the material, not just on the surface. That tells you everything. Heat speeds this up dramatically. That's why electronics that run warm, old computer towers, game consoles, appliance housings near a motor or compressor, yellow faster than plastic that just sits in a drawer. UV light does the same thing, which is why furniture left outside yellows quicker than furniture kept indoors, even in a shaded spot. And here's the part almost nobody connects. Cheap cleaning habits make it worse. Wiping plastic down with anything containing bleach or strong oxidizers doesn't clean away yellowing. It actively feeds the same oxidation reaction that caused it. You're pouring gasoline on a fire and calling it fire suppression. I learned to spot this pattern young, working alongside my grandfather on commercial cleaning contracts. He always said plastic remembers everything you do to it, and 40 years in this trade has proven him right more times than I can count. Common mistakes. Mistake 1, reaching for bleach. This is the big one, and it's the reason I made this video. Bleach, sodium hypochlorite, is a powerful oxidizer. People think oxidizer means it removes the oxidation causing the yellowing. It's the opposite. Bleach reacts with that flame retardant compound and accelerates the same breakdown process that's already yellowing the plastic. Sometimes you'll get a temporary lightening effect right after applying it, which tricks people into thinking it worked. Give it a few weeks, and the yellow comes back, often darker, sometimes with an orange or brownish cast that's harder to treat than the original yellowing. On top of that, bleach makes plastic more brittle over time. I've seen light switch covers and appliance panels crack years down the line, and the owner has no idea it traces back to a bleach wipe down from way back when. The plastic didn't fail on its own, it was chemically weakened first. Mistake 2. Sanding or using abrasive pads. Because the yellowing is a chemical change all the way through the plastic and not a surface stain, people figured they can just sand it down to fresh material underneath. Sometimes that works for a thin layer, but most plastic items don't have enough material thickness to sand without changing the shape, texture, or fit of the piece. I've watched people sand through the texture pattern on a device housing, leaving a smooth patch that looks worse than the yellowing ever did. Worse, sanding creates fine scratches that trap dirt and oils, which actually accelerate future yellowing because you've increased the surface area exposed to air and light. You're not fixing the problem, you're setting up round 2. Mistake 3. Using direct sunlight as a bleaching method without controlling the process. There's a real technique, controlled UV and peroxide exposure, that professionals and hobbyists use to reverse yellowing, and I'll walk you through the proper version of it later. But people hear sunlight can bleach plastic and just set the item on a windowsill or in the yard with nothing on it, expecting it to whiten itself out over a few days. Sometimes it does lighten a bit. More often, since UV is one of the 2 things causing yellowing in the first place, unprotected sun exposure just adds more oxidative stress to plastic that's already degrading. Without the peroxide component doing the actual chemical reversal, you're just baking the material longer under the exact conditions that damaged it. I've seen console shells left in direct sun for a week come out more yellow, more brittle, and sometimes warped because nobody controlled the heat or turned the piece regularly. The pattern across all 3 mistakes is the same. People are treating yellowing like a surface cleaning problem when it's actually a chemistry problem happening inside the material. You can't scrub, bleach, or tan your way out of a molecular reaction. You have to reverse it correctly, and that means a completely different approach. The solution. Here's the method I actually use, refined over hundreds of jobs, restoring everything from vintage electronics housings to commercial fixture covers to yellowed patio furniture. Washing soda, which is sodium carbonate, is the foundation of the safe version of this process, but I want to walk you through both the everyday cleaning method and the deeper restoration method because people ask me for both. Stage 1. Rule out surface grime first. Before you assume you're dealing with true chemical yellowing, wash the item properly. This sounds basic, but I've had people convinced their plastic was permanently discolored when it was actually coated in nicotine residue, kitchen grease, or years of dust bonded with humidity. Mix warm water with a few drops of plain dish soap and use a soft microfiber cloth or a soft bristle brush for textured surfaces. Work in small sections. Rinse with a separate damp cloth so you're not just redistributing grime. If the color comes back closer to original after this wash, you are dealing with surface buildup, not oxidation, and you're done. If the color barely changes, or you can already tell the yellow is uniform and consistent across the whole piece, you're dealing with true oxidative yellowing, and that's where washing soda comes in. But here's the step people always skip, and it's the one that actually matters most: drying the item completely before doing anything else. Any leftover moisture sitting in seams, vents, or textured grooves will mess with how evenly your next treatment absorbs, and you'll end up with blotchy, uneven whitening. Give it a full hour of air drying, longer for anything with vents or crevices. Stage 2, the washing soda paste method. Washing soda is a mild alkaline compound. Unlike bleach, it doesn't feed the oxidation reaction. Instead, it works by gently lifting and loosening the surface level buildup that sits on top of oxidized plastic, while being far gentler on the plastic structure since it isn't a strong oxidizer itself. It's the difference between coaxing a stain out and blasting it with a chemical that makes the underlying problem worse. Mix washing soda with a small amount of water until you get a paste roughly the consistency of toothpaste. You want it thick enough to sit on a vertical surface without sliding off. Apply it directly to the yellowed plastic with a soft microfiber cloth or an old toothbrush for detailed areas like vents, buttons, or textured grips. Work it in with light circular motion. You're not scrubbing hard, you're massaging it into the surface. Let it sit for 15 to 20 minutes. Don't let it dry out completely. If it's a hot day or a dry room, mist it lightly with water to keep it workable. After it sits, wipe it away with a damp microfiber cloth, then rinse with clean water and dry immediately. For moderate yellowing, especially on items that haven't been sitting for years, this step alone brings back a noticeable amount of the original color. For a lot of household items, remote controls, small appliance panels, light switch covers, this is genuinely all you need. Stage 3, the controlled peroxide method for deep, stubborn yellowing. For plastic that's badly yellowed, think decades-old electronics or furniture that's spent real time outside, washing soda alone won't fully reverse it because you're dealing with oxidation that's gone deep into the material, not just surface buildup. This is where you combine washing soda cleaning with a controlled peroxide and UV process, which is the actual chemistry behind reversing oxidative yellowing at its source. After doing the washing soda treatment in stage 2, apply a cream-based peroxide developer, the kind used in hair bleaching, in the 30 to 40 volume range, available at any beauty supply store, as a thin, even layer directly onto the clean, dry plastic. Cover the piece loosely with plastic wrap to hold the peroxide against the surface and slow evaporation. This is a detail most people miss entirely. Without the wrap, the peroxide dries out in under an hour and barely does anything. Now, place the wrapped item under UV light. Direct sunlight works, but I prefer a UV lamp or a sunny window with consistent exposure because it's controllable and won't cook the plastic with excess heat the way a hot afternoon in direct sun will. Check on it every few hours. Depending on how deep the yellowing is, this process can take anywhere from a few hours to a couple of days. Rotate the item periodically so every side gets even exposure. Uneven exposure is exactly why some restoration attempts come out blotchy, with one side whiter than the other. Pro tip, and this is something most guides completely leave out, keep the peroxide layer moist throughout the whole process. The second it dries out, the reaction stops, and reapplying on top of dried peroxide creates uneven results instead of finishing the job. I check mine every 2 to 3 hours and mist it with a spray bottle of plain water if it's starting to dry at the edges. On longer jobs, I'll do this overnight too, setting an alarm rather than letting it sit unchecked for 8 hours. Once you've reached the color you want, remove the plastic wrap, wash the piece thoroughly with the washing soda solution from stage 2 to neutralize and clean off any remaining peroxide residue, rinse well, and let it dry completely before reassembling or using it. Stage 4, protecting the result. Restoring the color is only half the job. If you don't protect the plastic afterward, the same oxidation process starts right back up, especially if the item goes back into a warm environment or gets regular sun exposure. Once everything is clean and fully dry, apply a thin coat of a UV protectant plastic polish. The kind sold for automotive trim works well for most household plastics too. This adds a barrier layer that slows future UV and oxygen exposure from reaching the plastic surface directly. For anything that sits outdoors or near a heat source, I recommend reapplying that protectant every 3 to 4 months. It takes 5 minutes, and it's the difference between plastic that stays white for years and plastic that's yellow again by next summer. One more rehook before we wrap this up. The biggest mistake in the entire process isn't the cleaning, it's what people do the week after. They restore the plastic, feel satisfied, and go right back to wiping it down with whatever all-purpose cleaner is under the sink, half of which contain bleach or ammonia. Check your labels. If a cleaner lists sodium hypochlorite or a strong oxidizer, keep it away from plastic you've just restored, or you'll be doing this whole process again in 6 months. A quick note on what not to combine. Never mix washing soda treatments with bleach-based products in the same session, and never use them back-to-back without a full rinse in between. Mixing chemicals is a habit I see constantly, and beyond the yellowing issue, some combinations create genuinely hazardous fumes. Stick with one method at a time, rinse thoroughly between steps, and give the plastic time to dry before applying anything new. That's the full process. Wash first to rule out surface grime, treat with washing soda for moderate yellowing, bring in the controlled peroxide method for the deep, stubborn stuff, and always finish with UV protection so you're not doing this again next year. It's not complicated, but it does take patience. Most restoration work does. If you've got a piece of yellowed plastic sitting around right now, drop a comment and tell me what it is and how bad the yellowing has gotten. I read through these and it genuinely helps me figure out what to cover next. And if plastic restoration isn't your biggest headache, tell me what is. Hard water stains, grout that never comes clean. Whatever it is, there's a decent chance I've dealt with it on a job before. If this saved you from reaching for the bleach bottle, do me a favor and subscribe. I put out videos like this every week, built from actual jobs, not guesswork. And if you're dealing with hard water buildup on top of everything else, I've got a full video breaking down exactly how to handle that without scratching your fixtures. Worth a watch right after this one. I'll see you in the next one.